official statistics are offered on crimes against children are given by the National Crime Records Bureau. They are based on the reported cases. That is what the police has recorded in their FIRs. So it gives you an inkling, or it tells you what the situation is, but it is not the whole picture, because many more cases are not reported. But in the fact that when we see an increase, as we are seeing now, between say 2001 and 2011, or 2005 and 2013, you know, I mean, if you do a 5-year analysis, it tells you even from that limited data where if there is a problem or not. So in that sense, it is useful. The other information that we have used in this report, and that Human Rights Watch has used in its report, is from the study that was done in 2007, which was a nationwide study on child abuse, which looks at all kinds of child abuse. But that is really, I mean, despite all its limitations, that really is the only study that is available at a national level. The cases of sexual abuse of boys is even more seldom reported as compared to girls, and that's because now over the years it has become acceptable in people's minds that girls do get abused and it needs to be reported. The whole issue of sexual abuse of boys is so related to masculinity and also lack of information. People really have no idea. Many people don't even know that boys can be sexually abused, and boys themselves are unaware. Girls are still aware now that there is and they talk about it. Boys they don't even know that they can be sexually abused. Families don't know that boys can be sexually abused, and therefore the reporting by the victim as well as the family is very low, or knowledge is very low. Secondly, as I said, it's so related to the whole issue of masculinity that even if they know, they find it hard to report. It's very hard to accept. Society doesn't accept the fact that a boy who has been sodomized or sexually, he's seen to be powerless, as weak, and that is a notion that has been perpetuated, which we need to break definitely. So I would not say that there are lesser boys compared to girls being sexually abused, because we do not have the statistics. But it is true, because we are living in a patriarchal society. Girls are definitely more vulnerable than boys. I am as boggled and as confused as you are. I would think that reporting has increased, which is a good thing. And that is perhaps why we are seeing so many reports. Perhaps all of this used to happen and never got reported. So to that extent, let us not see this as only as an increase, but also see it as an increase of reporting. But at the same time, the levels of violence that we are witnessing, not just in reporting, in the cases that we handle at Haq Center for Child Rights every day, is so horrifying that it makes us wonder to what level of violence people are willing to go. The story that has led to this unprecedented protest, you know, of this 5-year-old girl where she had bottles and candles inside her. I mean, what is it that makes a person do something so gruesome? Is something I am no longer able to explain, and I'm hoping that psychologists or criminal psychologists will actually now seriously start really delving into the minds of the perpetrators, because it is no longer, to my mind, enough to only support the victim. We need to understand why this is happening. What is it that makes an adult man want to have sex with a little child who's barely, you know, able to, you know, we have for years and years we have said it is power. For years and years we've said it is in perversity, you know, perverse behavior, or we've used these words, but I think it is time to understand it a little bit more. Of course it is about power, but it is something more than power also. It is also the to my mind, the increasing violence witnessed within society that you see that gets translated into violent action, and start understanding what are the socio-economic conditions that make people behave in a certain way, what is the kind of violence inside of society that is making people behave a certain way, what is the messaging that is coming to them through the media, through all of us, through society at large. Somewhere is the messaging that we are getting, and it's something that I have been thinking about, that we see very many famous big people get away for having committed a similar offense. Then the Aam Janta says, "Arey, if he can get away, why not me?" So prosecution and punishment has to become much better. The judicial system has to be much more effective. The investigation has to be much better. The whole process of reporting has increased, but police is still trying not to report. So somewhere we have to get the message to the police that it is, if you are going to be judged, and here again it's a policy decision, if a thana is going to be judged by the fact of how little the crime rate is, as against how well they have reported, how well they have investigated, and how many cases have been taken to fruition and prosecution has happened, if that becomes the yardstick of their success rather than how small their reporting is, perhaps police behavior will change. At the moment they are afraid, they don't want to be seen as the crime thana. They want to be seen as the thana with the least amount of crime, that's controlled crime, So maybe our measurements have to change. No, I wouldn't think so. It's just that in the cities now, reporting has increased. It's not so. It hasn't caught on in terms of reporting in the villages so much. Anyway, the systems are even if you can imagine how hard it is for the system to function in metropolitan cities, you can imagine how much more difficult it is to work the system in a village scenario, where one constable heads one thana, and to get to probably walk or drive miles to the nearest police station, wait, be faced with indignity for wanting to report. So people just do not do it. But I would not say that it just because in terms of statistics we do not see it, that it is happening less in villages and more in metropolitan cities. I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. If it is the father, even the mothers don't allow the girls to speak up, and we're dealing with cases like this. The mothers refuse to support the girl. Where will she go? Who does she have to go to? The entire family tells her to keep quiet. If it's the brother, if it's the uncle, if it's the father, the girl is made to keep quiet. And she is so unsupported that she has nowhere to go. It happens to boys too, and the boys too keep quiet because the boys are unsupported. So there has, along with change in reporting, in investigation, prosecution, there has to be a large-scale change in attitude. We have to be able to say no to violence, and we have to be able to say it is unacceptable. And we have to be able to stand with the victim. Today we're dealing with a case of a high-end family in a very posh colony in the NCR of Delhi. The girl came out and talked about it, but now she's retracted and the family has completely gone into silence. And because there is such fear of society, it is unfortunate that it is the victim who has to bear the brunt of societal pressure rather than the perpetrator. which is the tragedy of sexual abuse, and it has been for years and years and years. I do think that there is a little change that is coming about, and protests that you see on the streets shows to us that people are willing to protest and say that it is not the fault of the victim. But unfortunately, it's so ingrained in our society that the victim feels she is at fault, just like he is at fault, rather than the perpetrator being at fault. And the society does nothing in terms of providing that support to make her feel that she is not at fault. She needs the support. She will be supported. She will be given every help that is required. That feeling has still not come in society. Law only comes into force after the act is committed. How are we going to stop the act from being committed? And understanding that law will take its course and I will not get away if I do something so horrendous is going to make the difference. Every time, it's an uphill task to get your case reported. Congratulations to those who have managed to do so, despite the odds. It's an uphill task. Victims have to sit in the police thana for a whole day on an average before anything happens. Everything happens in the evening. Why? Almost, if you do an average head count of when the medical tests happen, it will always be after dark. Why? Why is it that it takes everything, and then when they go for a medical test, the behavior of the doctors, the apathy of the doctors that the victim has to confront? Why? So the whole system down the line is not supporting the victim. But the first stop is the police. It's the first port of call. And if there you find the block, then every block after that seems really huge. It seems like a mountain to climb.